all I want to do is just laugh with friends and stuff all day. That's the great. It's kind of lame to be like, you know what I really like? Laughing. But like it's great.
Welcome to Story and Craft. Now, here's your host, Mark Preston.
All right, here we go. Another episode of Story and Craft. Welcome back. Good to have you. If this is your very first time stopping by the show, hey, welcome. Glad to have you as well. Thanks for checking out the show. Very much appreciated. Today we are sitting down with writer, producer, director Owen Dennis. He did the animated series Infinity Train. He has his latest animated series called Among Us on Paramount Plus as we speak. You can check it out. Great conversation. We talked about the animation process and kind of how this is creatively a little bit different than doing the traditional on-camera thing. Enjoyed the sit down with Owen. And do me a small favor, if you would, make sure to grab your podcast app or your phone or whatever have you, and make sure to like Story and Craft. Leave a like, leave a comment, follow the show. That way you get notified every time a new episode comes out. Plus, it helps people to find Story and Craft. Also, if you want to learn more about the show, everything you could possibly want to know, past episodes, past guests, it is at storyandcraftpod.com. All right, so let's jump into it. Today, we're talking animation. I'm sure you'll enjoy it because today is Owen Dennis Day right here on Story and Craft. Now, where are you at right now?
I'm in North Hollywood.
Is that where you originate from? Are you a Cali kid or?
No, I'm from Minnesota. I grew up in Minnesota for the most part, and so that's where I generally say I'm from Minnesota, which is the easiest.
Whereabouts in Minnesota?
The center east. So I'm from around the Stillwater area, about 25 minutes outside of Minneapolis.
Yeah, I had a good friend of mine who is from Mankato, Minnesota. Yep. And then a good friend of mine who's from Texas, moved up there to St. Paul.
How'd that go?
They loved it. He loved it up there. No,
okay,
he was in investments. Now he's back in he's originally actually from Holland, but anyway, but no, he moved back. But when he went up there, he had a Ford Expedition. His wife did, and they were going to sell it in his rear wheel drive. And and every dealership they went to was laughing like, dude, that needs to be 4-wheel drive, two wheel, you know. So there's a whole thing, and he sent me pictures or a video rather on his phone of his daughter throwing some water up in the air, and it turned to powder before it hit the ground. I'm like, dude, you can keep that. God bless. I love my Minnesota people. I've never met somebody from Minnesota I didn't like.
Another thing we used to do is we'd blow bubbles out when it was really freezing cold. And so then if you blow bubbles, the bubbles become a solid little ball that just falls onto the ground, and then you can pick it up and just like hold it.
See, growing up in Dallas, we got the worst part of winter. Yeah. Like we would get snow on occasion, but it'd be cool for a day, then it would warm up and it would kind of melt, turn slushy, then a hard freeze at night. So you got these blocks of gray ice everywhere. But down this way, we'll never see. If we see snow down here, there's some real issues going on in the climate, When did you make your way to LA? Was it a work were you like, okay, I got to get to LA for my career?
I mean, basically what happened is I lived in Minnesota, and then when I was in college, I worked in Yellowstone for a summer. And when I was in Yellowstone, I met a bunch of students from China who then convinced me to move to China to become an English teacher, and then moved from China to Los Angeles after a couple of years. So
wait, you got to tell me where you lived in China, though. I'm curious.
I lived in Shenzhen for the first year, and then Shanghai for the second 2 years.
Okay, I always talk food at least once in my show. I got to ask, what is your favorite dish that you encountered living? Because Chinese food there is vastly different than Chinese food here. It's kind of the same thing with Italian, kind of got Americanized. Yeah. But I got to know your favorite thing over there.
The fact is, Wikipedia has its own page for American Chinese food. It's its own cuisine.
It's like lately I've been talking about Anthony Bourdain at least once every show. He would talk about going their fond memories of Chinese. See, I'm Jewish, so Chinese food's a part of our, Christmas Eve. It's what we do.
Right.
But I the good stuff, like I got a thing for mapo tofu, which is anything with tons of Szechuan peppercorn. I'm like, that kind of thing. But what was your jam?
I was really into. There's this food called shou juabing, which was a sort of like a a dough that they would fry on a big griddle. And they put a piece of bacon on it and an egg, and then put basically hoisin sauce, ketchup, and mayonnaise on it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really good. And there was also I don't know, but yeah, I'm also a mapo tofu guy. And also over there was when I discovered, because I lived in Shanghai for a little while, that's where the soup dumplings are from, which
yeah.
I hadn't had before I went there. And I went there and had soup dumplings. These are incredible, you know?
Yeah, it's so crazy
yeah,
that my grandfather used to travel every 6 months to a year for business to Hong Kong. And I know when they said that China took over Hong Kong, they're worried about the influence that China would have over Hong Kong and kind of the culture that had evolved. It seems like the rest of China's kind of adopted kind of the Hong Kong aesthetic of a little bit, you know.
Sort of what happened was, so that transfer was happening, right? And then Shenzhen, which was the city that I stayed in first, was the city that was in between Hong Kong and the mainland. So they decided, they were like, we're just going to make this city into a giant bustling metropolis that speaks a different language than Hong Kong. So Hong Kong spoke Cantonese, and then Shenzhen, they were like, we're going to try capitalism in this one city. And it's going to be called Shenzhen. We're just going to try it in this one little city. And I've seen pictures of what it looked like in 1990, and it's a fishing village, like your stereotype of what a fishing village looked like. And now it's got 15 million people in it. So what they did is they made the city right there, and then people from all over China moved there because jobs and stuff. They're just trying to get jobs. And then that's also where like the first McDonald's in China was, and the first. Like I went to the first McDonald's in China.
My daughter studied in Europe for the fall semester.
Yeah.
And that was her second time. She did something else a couple of years ago, but she has a thing. Every country she goes to, she wants to go to McDonald's to try McDonald's food in that country to see what it's like. Like she was next to Lake Como in Italy, and she got tiramisu from McDonald's, so that was kind of nuts. And plus also they don't have all the preservatives and junk we have in our food over there.
Well,
so
it's also, they changed the flavors and things for whatever localization stuff. Like I really enjoyed KFC when I was over in China, but also KFC was like, it was the only American food I could get for a while. So I basically ate a KFC like once, twice a week. And I remember my students and stuff be like, oh, Americans, you love KFC. I was like, it's not that I love KFC. It's that I don't want to eat Chinese food right now. I just want to eat literally anything that is not Chinese food.
But the one thing, bringing up Bourdain again, he said you could go over there. You could literally be over there like every day of your life and just be knee deep in the culture, and you're only going to scratch the surface of what culturally it's all about. So he's like, and every time he went over there, he said it always looked vastly different every time he traveled back there because it's growing so fast. But like I said, my grandfather always brought back stuff, and I was always enamored as a kid with the Asian, the art, the culture, the vibe, but of course Hong Kong was a little different, Is that a good time of your life, or were you like, that was a rough?
Oh, it's fantastic. It was fantastic. I mean, it was one of those things where it was rough, mostly because I realized eventually that I'm like, oh, I'm running away from like life to go to China and do something else. Because basically I graduated, and when I graduated was the Great Recession, as they call it. So, nobody had jobs. Like anyone fresh out of college couldn't get a job.
Was this like 2008, 2009?
2008, 2009. Yeah. I graduated in 2009.
Oh yeah. My son and I just the other day watched The Big
Short.
The Big Short. Yeah. We just watched that again the other night, and I forgot what a debacle that was, but that was kind of like you pulled the ripcord. You went to China. You taught. Were you teaching English, or were you teaching?
I was teaching English. Yeah, I was teaching English. I was teaching conversational English. So the requirements are very low. It was basically like, you need to have a 4-year degree of some kind, any kind. They didn't care. And you need to be a native speaker from someone who was born in Canada, the US, New Zealand, Australia, or England. And you need to take a 2-week course. And now you are good enough to teach English in China. And they were just importing as many people as they could to teach English.
So did you have your cohort of expats? Like, everywhere you go in the world, you can kind of find an expat bar or restaurant.
Right. I didn't really because at the first place that I lived, I lived out in Yantiangang in Shenzhen, which was a port. It's the fourth busiest port in the world.
Really?
I don't know if it is anymore. It might be like number 2 or 3 at this point. I don't know. But at the time, it was the fourth busiest port in the world. So it was just a port that had happened to have a school in it. And that's where I was teaching. So there were no expats there. It was the only expats were people who would have been teaching in the same school as me, which was like, a couple, like 3 people. But otherwise it was a port that was filled with just like dock workers and stuff, and like that's where I was living for a while.
So that was your crew. You were hanging with dock workers.
Yeah. So I mean, I was hanging out with more of the English teachers, but that's mostly who was around town. Was a lot of
out of context, saying you hang out with dock workers could be misconstrued in so many ways.
Right.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to school of Minneapolis College of Art and Design in Minnesota. I went to school for animation.
Okay.
Like many people. I mean, now it's very interesting because at the time there were like, I want to say we had like 12 or 15 students in our graduating animation class. And now they've got like 50 or something. It's crazy.
So is that Minnesota's that's answer to kind of like RISD or Rhode Island school? I think that's...
Yeah, it's just, it's the school. It's the Minnesota art school.
That's got to be kind of cool when you go to a place like that. If you have an interest and did you feel like you found your tribe?
Very much. Cause I mean, I was living and going to school out in, rural Minnesota. So I've told the story a few times, but it's like when I was in high school was the early 2000s. And that was at the same time that like 3D animation and stuff started becoming a big deal, like Toy Story come out. That's like when Shrek started coming out, like all the movies started turning into 3D movies, and special effects started to be all about like, check out what we can do with computers. Like that was the time. And so I was all about that. And I really wanted to get into it. And so my dad would try his hardest to get me a computer that could even handle a 3D image at the time.
Oh no, my son did something. He went to he was in high school, but he did a summer like it's an animation thing like at the local community college. It was I think it was in junior high maybe, and they did this thing where they got a student version of the software. So I forgot what it was, but all I could remember is it was a fat, big old honking thing of a program, and it sucked a whole. And I have a recording studio, so I got horsepower. But it really the stuff he was doing was so impressive. And
there was a point when my friends were jealous because I had a computer that had a whole 2 gigs of RAM, and so everybody was like, "Whoa, you can do like so much stuff with that," and you could, like at the time that was a lot, that was a whole lot. But I was really pushing the limits. And I remember what I did was I would make like 3D images and stuff, and I would work on 3D animation stuff. That's what I wanted to do, was 3D animation. And I remember I would make artwork of 3D image CGI artwork. And I remember I went to the local county fair, which is the Washington County Fair. I went to the local county fair and they had a new category. And the new category was computer generated imagery or something, computer generated art, which is a brand new category that just had that year for the first time. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I could submit to that. So I wanted to submit to the art fair, and then I do it. And eventually the fair comes and I see, and like, I find my piece up on the wall. I'm like, oh, I got 3rd place. Okay, cool. And I walk around being like, well, I want to see like who got first, like a second, all that sort of stuff. I want to see it. I wasn't like upset about getting 3rd. I just wanted to know like who got the other places. I walk around. I can't find anything else. I'm like, well, where's the other places?
Were you like the only one who did that?
I eventually find a coordinator. I'm like, hey, where are the other entries? And they're like, oh, there weren't any. That was the only one. I was like, but I got 3rd place. and they were like, yeah, the judges don't have to give an award. I was like, I wasn't even good enough for 2nd place against nobody. And I remember that being one of those push moments where it's like, I'm getting out of this town, like one of those kinds of things.
Why did they give you first place, man? I'm sorry. I feel like I need to give you a hug now. I was like, come on, you're good.
That's all right. It's all right.
That you did that, and I know it's moving kind of more 3D, a little bit richer kind of animation. But isn't there a movement now? I forgot who it was, whether it be Warner Brothers or Disney. They're trying to kind of move the needle back a little bit into animation. We're kind of all thinking of when we think animation. Is it a nostalgia thing? Is it just a workflow cost thing? You know, is that
there's a ton of reasons. I think one, it's cheaper. If you do 2D animation, it's just cheaper. And I think there's also it's a pendulum thing. Like when things swing too much in one direction, people get bored of it, and then a new thing.
Man, isn't that true across all
reach out to other stuff?
I coach voiceover and tell my students, like, yeah, man, AI is going to take a massive bite out of what we do, but I think Gen Z, they're all about authenticity and real. You know,
yes.
It's going to swing back. And that's the reason why, like, millennials brought back vinyl, you know, for records, you know.
Yep.
Do you think it's going to go back to creating like hand-drawn cells? Is it going to be that kind of analog?
I don't think it's going to go all the way to physical cells. That's way too expensive. But I mean, the entire Among Us was entirely hand-drawn. Like the show that we just made was entirely hand-drawn. We didn't do any... Like there's different kinds of 2D animation you can do. One is like a 2D puppeting sort of animation where you build sort of what's almost like a marionette inside of a computer, or like a rod puppet inside of a computer.
Right.
And you sort of move it around. The computer interpolates between the different positions that you move it to. Whereas, and that's what a lot of things are. That's what Rick and Morty is. That's what, all kinds of adult animation is often where you see it the most. But then there, you can still do just like drawing one frame and then drawing the next frame and going on. It's not as common. It's very uncommon, in fact. But you can still do it, and that's what we did. It was pretty cool.
I think the kings of going just basic, the guys at South Park can clear over 1 billion. There's something to be said for, the content, But I noticed, I watched your show, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago.
Among Us.
Oh, Among Us. And I kind of like the way the hands aren't connected to the body. And that's just kind of an interesting thing. I asked my son about it. He's like, oh yeah, that was like a video game during COVID, I think. I get keyed in on some current stuff from my kids. I have to ask them. It's like, have you heard about this Among Us? He's like, oh yeah, that was like some kind of game that was big. And I told him I was talking to you. I'm just envious because you had a chance to work with Patton Oswalt, because that's, of course, with animation, you really, it's like with everything else, it requires a script, but you got a wordsmith who can kind of riff. Did you ever work in any kind of improv into the flow at all, or were you able to do that?
I always leave room for it. Like I always make sure, like, hey, this is the script. This is exactly what we're doing. The thing with animation is that it doesn't leave a lot of room for improv in general, because you already have everything all storyboarded out at minimum. And in our case, in Among Us, often the entirety of Among Us was, we did the voices after we did the animation, because right when we were making the show was during the actors strike. Mm-hmm. And so we weren't able to do the voices do the animation to the voices. So we had to do all the voices after.
You did it that long ago with the actors strike? That was like 2 years ago? Was that roughly?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 years ago? I don't know, something like that. Yeah.
So let's see. That's daughter. Hello, daughter. She was outside tanning. That's kind of what we do, I guess, down here at this time of day. I'm inside. That's why I'm so pale. I'm inside all the time. With animation, are you kind of 360 degrees of it? Or are you kind of, you're producing, you're directing, you're writing it? I mean, you're directing it as well, correct? I'm like, so really this is a lot more hands-on for the creative than, let's say, making a traditional 2-camera series. You know what I'm saying? Would that be an accurate statement?
Not just hands-on, but quite literally hands-on. I have to draw it. I have to draw it sometimes, there's whole shots that I had to personally animate, that sort of stuff happens. Like the first reveal of the big alien, I did the big wide shot of the big reveal, like that sort of thing. But then, I'm very hands-on with everything. Like I'm in the writer's room. I wrote one of the episodes. I'm directing everything. I give notes on every single part of the process. I helped write one of the songs. Like I'm on all of it. Yeah.
So, like for a guy who does VO, kind of like I do, I'm curious, did you have everyone kind of cutting their pieces individually, or did you ever have moments where you were able to get more than one, actor in a recording session in the studio?
We had to do it all individually. I've worked with I've worked in times when we've been able to do group actors, but the actors that we have in this one are very busy. So it was very much like whenever you have the chance. I've had times when I've had to get an actor, and an actor has been like, I can come to your project if you can do it 3 hours from now. I'd be like, okay. And then I have to like record, like book an entire studio and like do all that sort of stuff in like an hour. Like I've had to do that before. But yeah, we had to do them all separately. Some of them recorded from home.
I was about to say, the times I've done animation, I think once, but it was a small piece I recorded to send it on its way. Do y'all in the studio kind of are you able to play kind of the storyboards or the things so they can kind of get a sense of what they're voicing, or is it?
Yeah. We usually have the storyboard so they can see like, what is the face that's being made when you say this? And we can also try and give context. So it's not just like you saying, you can have like some context about like, am I surprised? Am I scared? Am I jovial? Like, what kind of am I saying? Like that sort of stuff is pretty important. So I think it's important for us to show the storyboards as we have them, because then people can like go like, oh, that's me. I'm pretending to be that person right there. This is what I should sound like, which I think helps.
So I know Patton Oswalt, of course, he's Ratatouille. So you got I think Ashley Johnson. I think was she in Growing Pains? Am I thinking?
She was in Growing Pains.
Oh, she was. Okay, that's right. Okay, my memory is not as bad as my kids say it is. Okay, so did you work with anybody on this project, or that hadn't really done this before? This is a new process for them, or was everybody pretty much in the flow?
Yeah, Liv Houston hadn't done this before. This was a new one for Liv, and they were open about it when they first got in the booth. But they're also Australian, I believe. And so I was guessing, because when I first saw Liv's work was in Santa Clarita Diet. And they were just sounded like an American kid. Like I never crossed my mind they weren't American. And so I was like,
Australians are really good about that. Australian's not an easy dialect to nail down, but Australians just knock it out of the park when it comes to doing the American dialect.
I believe that if you come from another country that has a different accent than American, and then you fool an American to believing that you're American, and I believe that you definitely have enough control of your voice that you can try out voice acting, you'll be fine. Because you've got to have some amazing control of your voice, and they did. They were a big hit. I loved Liv.
They're sneaky, man. Those Australians, got to be careful. So how long does it take you to knock out a whole episode of one of your? Because these are 15-minute. Am I right? Are they 15 minutes?
Yeah, they're quarter hours. Yeah, they're all between like 11 and 15 minutes usually. Because now it used to be that I had to do, when I was making Fanny Train, it was all like you have to make each episode exactly 11 minutes and 22 seconds to the frame. But now that it's streaming, it's like you can have a little leeway, which is thank God. It's a waterfall. So I would say one episode. It's not that we work on one episode and then the other and then the other. We like do them all at different parts at different times. But I would say it takes maybe 10 to 11 months to do one episode, somewhere in there.
That's pretty much a quick workflow. Like we were talking about, you're not doing like 3D animation or anything. So that's
all 2D. Yeah. The big difference in 2D and 3D, like 3D, you have to build all of these assets in 3D space and build everything before you even start animating. Whereas the process in 2D animation, especially if you're just drawing 2D animation and not doing the puppeted stuff, is much more like I just have to draw it. So it takes a little while longer, but the amount of front end work that you have to do in something with a 3D pipeline or a 2D puppeted pipeline is just much higher than you have to do with a hand-drawn pipeline.
Is it harder to pitch animation? Because some of the, like if you talk about Rick and Morty and you try to pitch that to somebody, because animation, you have way more, you're not constricted by the world we live in, the physical world. So you can do it. Is it harder to pitch an idea, or is it easier because people are like, oh, animation, you can do anything?
I would say it's a bit more difficult for a few reasons. One, when people think of animation, they think of specific genres. So there's an assumption, especially in the West, that it's going to be for children. And if it's not for children, then it must be for adults. And if it's for adults, it has to be extremely like adult. So it's got to be like drugs and sex and violence and all that sort of stuff. And there's like nothing in between. And if it's for adults, it's going to be comedy. And if it's children, it's going to be probably comedy. And maybe you can do an action thing. But that's it. Like it's very, very restricted in terms of genre. The other difficult thing about pitching animation is that if you think about like what if I were to pitch a movie to you and I say it's got Tom Cruise in it, you know what that looks like.
There's gonna be a lot of running.
There's no,
yeah,
it's gonna be a lot of running. Yeah, definitely a lot of chest out running. But also, you can visualize in your head. You know who Tom Cruise is. You know what he looks like. You can visualize what it's going to look like. In animation, if I say, yeah, it's about a dog, a talking dog, the dog that's in my head is different than the dog that's in your head.
Yeah.
And the style is different. The way it moves is different. The way the colors are different. Every single thing is different.
So when you go into pitch, do you like to already have the storyboards out, like or at least the characters drawn out?
I like to at least have a rough style about what the show is going to look like, so that people can at least latch on to something visual when we're talking.
Right.
Because it's a visual medium. So you have to have something visual to latch onto, which makes it harder I think it makes it slightly easier for me because I'm an artist, slightly harder for people who are just writers, because they often have to hire an artist or find an artist friend or someone who can help them. But yeah, that's generally, I think, one of the harder, those are the two main issues I think you run up against with pitching animation.
Well, when you're sitting down, I know this seems like kind of a basic question, but when you think of a character, you think of a look of a character, look of an entire show. Where is that coming from? Something that you, for lack of a better way of putting it, inspired by things you've seen? Or is it something that you're just like, you see a shape and think, well, this would make kind of an interesting looking character? You know, and what is it that kind of fires up the creative juices for you?
It comes from a lot of different directions. I generally latch on to themes and concepts, and then I start moving into what things actually look like. So for me, I'm very much what is the story I want to tell? What are the ideas I want to cover? What are the, themes and topics I want to get into? And sometimes I even get into like, what are some big set pieces that I think would be fun in that? How do you sort of, how do you throw little rocks at that theme with every character, that sort of thing. I'm very much focused on figuring out what the characters are even thinking about and doing. And then eventually and during that process, I tend to think about like, it just comes up in my brain, like, what does this actually look like? And sometimes it looks like a human being walking around, and sometimes it looks like a orange blob. There's like it can go any direction. And that's generally how I start with characters and stuff. I'm not a huge character designer myself. I like to have other people do it for me, because I'm just like, I find my work to be kind of like, nah, it's fine, but not interesting. But even like the character 1-1 in Infinity Train it was straight up just me drawing a circle in my notebook and not knowing what to do, and then putting a line in the center of it and being like, oh, sure, I can do that. And that's it. That was, it was a circle with a line in it.
Well, when you were in high school, were you that kid who had that spiral notebook that was just full of all kinds of drawings and pencil drawings and ideas? And,
Yeah, I drew all the time. All of my papers always had doodles on the side. I used to make flip books inside the textbooks. So I'd take the corner of whatever this textbook I wasn't supposed to be drawing in, because everybody had to borrow the same one.
Yeah.
I'd like make a flip book out of the corner pages down the corner, so you could like go, but I would make a little animation or something.
Okay, whatever kid got that book after you the next year probably appreciated that greatly and wondered, like, who is this legend whose book I have now? Yeah.
Or was very annoyed by it. It could be one or the other, any direction.
When you were back elementary, junior high, high school, were you always angling towards art, or were you up to other things? And
I was always into art. Again, because the time period, it was such an interesting time period, because I was also into making my own like video game levels. And so at the time there were games that you could sort of take them apart and you could make game levels for like Counter-Strike or Unreal Tournament or things like that. And so I made game levels. I tried to make my own video games themselves. I tried to shoot little movies in my backyard, all that sort of stuff. And I was always painting and drawing and working on art all the time, from many different angles. I was making music. I was just all over the place. I've been doing art since I was a child. Like I was always doing art.
Was this coming from your parents? I mean, were they creatives or?
My mom was an artist. She didn't go into art as like a career or anything. She was a botanist, and then she was like a stay-at-home mom. But my grandmother on my mom's side, she was a muralist in Missouri, and she actually opened the first art store in St. Louis. And then my grandfather on the other side did like stage play background art stuff, that sort of thing. So it was fed through. It was like art was a value in my family.
Right.
Like
so this wasn't a total anomaly when you sat down and you were starting to draw. Yeah.
No. So it was really lucky because it meant that my parents both understood when they saw that I was a kid that I was just going to constantly be drawing monsters and dinosaurs and stuff like that. They're like, okay, well, we know where this is headed. Yeah. So they had a rough idea of how to be able to help me in that journey.
What kind of stuff did your dad do? Or does?
My dad's currently retired, but he was a copyright attorney. Like he did patent law at like 3M and Medtronic and stuff. And so that was what he did.
Hey, that's kind of helpful to have a patent law attorney there.
I would say it did teach me a lot about like rights. And it was and definitely made dinner conversation was a lot of dinner conversation had a lot of questions. Why do you think that? Why do you think that? What is about this? And a lot of like, because he was a lawyer, right? Yeah. And so there was a lot of questions at dinner where you had to sort of question your own beliefs on why do you think this thing? Why do you think that thing? Well, I think that's kind of cool. And like that's the conversation.
I think in our world right now, I think more parents should be challenging their kids to do that, challenge their own thought process as opposed to being. There's a Mark Twain quote. I'm going to jack it up. I was telling my son about it, but he didn't worry too much about people that didn't know much. He worried about the people who thought they knew everything, that kind of thing.
So 100%.
And I think that's a big issue in our world right now.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm really glad that's how I was raised, but it was a lot in the way of like interrogating your own beliefs and thoughts and stuff, which helps a lot when I'm directing stuff, because it's a lot of like people will come to me and go like, what about this? Can we try it this way or this way? And then if I have a gut feeling of like, I don't want to do that, or I do want to do that, I then have to question myself on like, why do I feel that way? What's leading me to that conclusion? Is it something where I'm just feeling that way because that's what I'm used to? Is it something that I'm feeling that way because I don't like the person that's telling me? Like, what is it? Like, why am I feeling reacting? It's
kind of like going into an audition and like, you could be, for an actor, you could be doing the most rock star performance, but if you remind the casting director of their ex-brother-in-law that they couldn't stand or something, So like conceptually, when you're coming up with ideas, again, you're not constrained by our world, do you ever challenge yourself to really go out there? Like, okay, because, it's like, where do the ideas come from? Maybe that's a better question to ask. Where do you typically find your source material?
I find it in the world like anybody else. It's sort of, I like to, there's a thing I like to do every year that I haven't been able to do in a couple of years, but it's a thing I like to do every year where I take my phone and my computer and I leave them at home. And I just go drive in a direction. And then I drive in that direction for a few hours until I find some place to stay. And then I stay in a random hotel or something, or a parking lot, or whatever. I've stayed in Walmart parking lots. I've stayed in cornfields and stuff. I just drive until I find a place that I want to sleep, and then I just the next morning I just keep doing it, and I just drive around until I find stuff, and then I'll be at a campsite, I'll do whatever, but just like going out and exploring the world and seeing what happens, which is a very very white guy thing to be able to do. I would say my wife isn't a fan of me just leaving without my cell phone, but it's a
so
thing
this
that
is a
sometimes.
Solo endeavor. Okay, so this is not
Oh
like
yeah, it's just
okay.
me by myself.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I just go out and I do it, and I actually came up with like there's a villain in Infinity Train where it's this big tentacled monster thing that I drew when I was out on the road and listening to music. Like that's just a character that I just drew in my sketchbook because I was just like whatever, just drawing it, and then it became a giant villain in the show. Like that sort of stuff, it helps, it works. And it's also a great way to like meet people. Like I've always really enjoyed staying at hostels. I really enjoy staying at a hostel by myself because it forces you to interact with a bunch of people that you don't know and are from other places. And sometimes sharing a room with these random people you don't know are from other places. I remember I used to travel across China that way. I'd always stay at these weird little hostels that are like it's a hostel inside of someone's like house, or it's a hostel that's like beneath a bunch of brothels, like whatever. There's and I would meet someone in the hostel and be like, hey, do you want to go get some like borscht? Some Chinese borscht. They'd be like, yeah, right. And then that's what we do. It was it's just a fun way to like just do something else.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're doing also. They're staying at a hostel and they're kind of expecting that experience.
Yeah. And I find that it's like you spend so much energy creating, but you have to refill the bucket. You have to have stuff to pull from. You have to keep putting stuff back in the bucket. Otherwise, there's nothing left in the bucket to pull from. So that's how I kind of think of it. I think of it as like, part of being creative is going out and doing stuff so you have something to be creative about. Because I've had so many times when I get frustrated sometimes when I see comics online or something where somebody will draw a comic, and the comic starts with like somebody sitting in front of a computer and being like drawing on their tablet in front of a computer. I'm always like, I don't care about this. I don't care about you saying I'm sitting in front of my computer. Why do I want to I don't want to read about you sitting in front of your computer. That sucks.
But isn't the great thing about animation that you can tell a story, or let's say you got something to say about society, maybe not highbrow. But
I would never.
But you can do it in a way where you're getting it. You're kind of coming in a back door to get a message across. Do you enjoy the writing process? Do you enjoy writing the scripts, or is it the anime? Which part of it do you really kind of dig in on and enjoy the most?
I very much enjoy the writing process. Like I like all parts of it. The writing is the part where I feel like you get the most information down, where it's like the most like getting the most information out of my head is the writing section. And then after that, it's mostly like, how do we color this writing? It feels like putting the writing down is like the sketch of like roughly what you're doing. And then after that, it's all like just figuring out the tiny little, it's for sort of figuring out the details in a way. I love the writing part because that's also something, I would love to get into writing some more live action stuff as well, because I feel like that's an interesting thing I haven't really done much of that I'd like to try out. I also like the directing part.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What are your thoughts on directing, especially when you've got a cast like what you've got here in Among Us?
I love the directing part, because the directing part is basically I've hired on a bunch of people that I trust. I trust their artwork. I trust what they do, the thing that they specialize in. I trust these actors. I trust the background artists. I trust, the editor. I trust all these people because that's what there's a thing that they specialize in. And then my job is purely to like take the energy that they have and just guide it in a certain direction. And it's trying to make help that person be like the best version of whatever they can be in that position. I generally view it as like, almost like bowling, where it's like you take a ball and you're sort of just like rolling that ball down there and then sort of trying to like hope that sort of makes it towards the pins roughly and like help it get there. I guess it's more like curling with like little brushes or something. But yeah, that's how it's. I love the directing part. I'm a big fan of that. I get so sad when I'm not doing it.
Yeah, like Patton Oswalt, watching him, just kind of riff. Yeah, with comedy, it's all, you've worked it out, and you finally have your show, and then you tape it. Okay, but what's it like as you're working with someone like Patton Oswalt, who you're kind of working out an idea? Is it any interesting anecdotes of kind of how you found the right read, as it were, with Patton?
Something that really helps with comedic actors, especially, is that comedy actors are so obsessed with timing. Like they know, hey, it's funnier if I say this faster. It's funnier if I put a slight pause here versus here. Like they're really, really good at timing. And there's a reason that people always have this sort of stunned reaction whenever there's like, oh, that comedy actor was in this drama and they're really good.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, it's because they work on timing all the time. Like they're all about timing. And so getting comedy actors into something is so helpful because you can say like, hey, we're gonna have to pace this one up a bit, and like, got it. And they know exactly how to keep the comedy timing, even though we have to speak fast for this one line, or like they know. They're very good and very intuitive on that, because they're very intuitive because they're also so, skilled on it. They know they got it. And so it's always a joy when you have people like the whole cast that we have on the show. I'm just like so happy and thankful for them.
Well, that's cool because they don't have faces where there's facial expression you can lean on, so it's kind of, it's still, I don't want to say theater of the mind's not right, but you're leaning a little more on the kind of how it comes out of them, and you really,
it is something where a lot of the time when you're directing the actors, you're just closing your eyes. Like I think that's something that is different. A big different thing between live action and animation is often whenever we're directing them, I'm sitting there with my eyes closed. I don't even look at the actors while it's happening because I just want to hear.
It's so funny
what they sound like.
When you close your eyes, you're kind of seeing, you're the animator, or what it's going to look like. So probably that's a little bit of discovery for you as well, I'm assuming.
Yeah, because there are definitely times when it's like, I know what the storyboard is going to be. And then because they also surprise you sometimes, you're like, there have been times when I've said like, we're going to note that take, and then we're going to have to go back or have to change the animation somewhat because I like that take. It's not what I expected to do. But we should do that.
You know what I'd love to do? I would love to see, because there are outtakes, of course. I mean, you cannot do this without there being a ton of outtakes, but just for fun to animate the outtakes. I thought that would be, just
something
kind of
I've always wanted. Something I've always wanted is I've always wanted to hear a long take of just the parts where people go, just those little breaths that get taken out whenever we're recording something. I just want to hear an entire version of like Christina Aguilera just being like, just that, because I think it'd be great to listen to.
I had someone come to my studio and do some ADR once, and all it was reaction stuff. I just edited it together, and it sounds hilarious when you just have all these reactions, but in a very fast sequence,
I had a library for when I was working on a Fame Train. I had them build a library of just reaction sounds for one of the characters, because we often end up needing like someone to go like whatever. And so I just had a whole library of like shocked surprised like just like all these ahs, and you could just like click through and go of like whoever the actress was and stuff. It was great.
Well, who do you think hasn't done animation voiceover, or you maybe have, or just not aware of something they've done that you would love to work with because you think they got the chops for it, that they would make a really good animated character?
I very much believe that many actors can become voice actors and stuff. It's purely if they're interested. Like I was so happy when Dan Stevens hopped on board, because I love Dan Stevens. Like I was super happy when he joined. Robert Pattinson, somebody that I'm like, he's done, as far as I know, just like one voice acting role, but I saw him in, I think it was Devil All the Time, and he played a preacher, like a Southern preacher. And I've seen more and more in different things of his work now where he does voice. He sort of changes his voice into something else, and I'm like, this guy
kind of a chameleon. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Robert Pattinson's one of those people that was a born voice actor, but he was unfortunately born very handsome, so he has to be he has to be like an actor, like a face actor.
He was unfortunately born very handsome.
Yeah, poor guy. So he has to be a face actor. But yeah, like I've had, there's a book I've always wanted to adapt called The Ratman's Notebooks, which has this like sort of weirdo guy who it got turned into a movie called Willard in like the early 70s.
Willard. Wasn't there a movie was it Elijah Wood? I don't know. There was a dog.
They did a movie in the early 70s, then they did another one in like 2002 but yeah, they did a remake of it. But like the book I really loved, and I want to do like an animated version of the book. I'm like, oh, Robert Pattinson would be like perfect voice for this book, and like all that sort of stuff. Like I've often thought about him, doing stuff with him. He'd be a lot of fun.
Before we wrap up, I always do something I call my 7 questions, a little fun, kind of, I mentioned it before, we talked Chinese food, which now I'm hungry because I have not had Szechuan in a long time. But the other night I did something with tofu, by the way, and it was heading in the zone of mapo tofu. I was like, why don't I just go get a recipe for this? And, because that's one of my favorite all time things. But yeah, I always do this before I have lunch. But first question, though, what is, if you think about your favorite comfort food, what would that be for you?
My mom is from Missouri, and so there's a food from Missouri called ooey gooey butter cake.
I lived in New Orleans for over 20 years. I'm very familiar, and that is, when you say butter, it is impossible how much butter they can fit into that.
Yes. It's one of those foods that's like, oh, this just remains shelf stable because it's just butter and sugar.
People, it's one of those things when you eat it, it's like, listen, you can't think of the recipe as you eat this. Just enjoy it, because if you think of the recipe, it's gonna mess you up emotionally for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
because it's just
classic plain ooey gooey butter cake is just like one of my favorites. I absolutely love it.
But you throw that with some coffee. Oh, it's good stuff.
I eat it maybe once every 2 years because otherwise I'll have a heart attack.
Yeah, they have. There is a gas station chain called was it Danny and Clyde's in New Orleans, and they all when you're checking out the register, they have somebody locally who makes that, and then they package it up. They have a little basket of it. So as you're checking out, you're just like, if you go in there, you're inside. They also make really good po' boys, by the way. It's a whole different thing. But you see that there, it's like, I shouldn't, but it's been a while since I had one. And you get it, and you get halfway through it, and you're like, why did I do that? But I'm halfway through it. I might as well finish the game. It's like,
yes. And then you take a nap.
Yeah, but a friend of mine had one for had a bunch. They made up some for Thanksgiving. That is so good. That is but it's a definite decadence.
Yes.
The next question I got, like, if you're going to be sitting down, you got 3 people, you're going to be having an afternoon, having coffee, whatever have you, living or not, who would those 3 people be you would love to sit down with for the afternoon?
Maybe Phil Tippett might be one. He was the stop motion special effects guy in Star Wars and a bunch of 80s movies. And I probably, this is basically just like who my heroes are, basically. But also I'm trying to figure out who would make the best conversation. I'm torn between the two of these. So Phil Tippett, my friend Toby Jones, and who would make things fun? Larry David.
Oh, okay.
Let's stick those 3, like an animator, a friend of mine, and an awkward comedy guy. They're not the people that I look at and go like, oh, these are the heroes that I wish I could that I wish I could interview all the time, but the 3 people that I look at and go like, I bet this would be fun to listen to.
Yeah. So you're talking about Toby Jones, the actor, or is it another Toby Jones?
No, Toby Jones, my roommate from college.
Okay. So see, that's the thing. You bring people together who you think would be interesting just to observe their conversation. That's part of the fun, where you can kind of hang back and you feel like you're learning something. You're getting a taste of life you wouldn't otherwise have. Now the next question I got is, when you were a kid, going back in the day, who was your very first celebrity crush?
Shoot, just a second. Karen Allen. There it is.
Karen Allen, Indiana Jones, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Yeah,
Karen Allen.
Anyone that can drink someone under the table in the middle of wherever they that was how we were introduced to her, right? She was doing shots of something.
The first thing she did is she was doing shots. Karen Allen was definitely my first celebrity crush. Yeah.
Next question: if you're going to be living on an island, let's say, now it's a great island, you want to be there. It's beautiful. It's exotic. You're going to be nice digs, but no streaming. So if you're going to be there for a whole year, you can only bring 1 CD or a box set, and you can only bring 1 DVD. So it's music you can listen to over and over again for a year, and a movie you could watch over and over. What would that be for you?
I'd probably bring music. I'd probably bring the first self-titled Gorillaz album.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things I really like about
that was about 1996-ish, roughly.
That was maybe, I want to say it was like 2000. Like it was like exactly somewhere in there.
Okay.
It was when I was in junior high-ish, I think. I remember I listened to it. The first time I heard that album was also at my first party where there weren't adults and there was some beer and we were definitely underage, and like there was one of those things. I remember really enjoying that album because there were so many different styles of music on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I read some interview with Damon Albarn that who was one of the people from Gorillaz, the lead for Gorillaz. I remember I read some interview with him that I've taken to heart very much in like all my work, which is that he was like, nobody knows Blur. Like he was the head of the lead singer in Blur as well.
Oh, really?
Like,
okay.
No, all these kids that are listening to Gorillaz, they don't know who Blur is.
Yeah, wasn't Gorillaz sort of a quasi super group? It was like some guys got together who had done other stuff in other bands. Yeah,
it was basically Jamie Hewlett and Damon Albarn got together and made this cartoon band.
Right.
But what Damon Albarn was talking about is he was sort of like, he wanted every song to start in one genre and then turn into a different genre at some point midway through and do something else. And basically what you're doing is you're ending up introducing, kids that would be listening to only rock music or only country music. Suddenly they've got hip hop in there as well and sort of mixed in. And you end up with all these bizarrely different experimental music genres all sort of mixed together. And so I've always sort of I do that. Like in my work, I'm always like, I want to do this thing, but also I want to mix it with this other thing midway through and change the genre and do something else. So it feels surprising and feels fresh. And you always have this sort of fresh thing going on. So probably that album.
Oh, very cool. Now, what movie would you, what DVD would you bring? Hey, and I'm all about DVDs, especially now I keep hearing these stories about, all the digital stuff people bought. Like, oh, no, you don't have that anymore, So let's bring back those DVDs. Yeah. So what would you bring?
Well, I'm torn because if we say what movie would I bring, I'd probably bring like the Matrix or something. But if we were to say what DVD would I bring, I'd probably bring the Terminator 2 Special Edition DVD. Because this special edition DVD, if I remember right, this is the one from like 2001 or something, 2002 in there somewhere. They had like a couple of DVDs in it and they were all about every single special effect and every single thing that they did. So there are all these documentaries in there that are just like go super, super in depth about how they made the different effects and things like that. And
aren't those like we turn on the commentary, the director's commentary or the actors? I think it's something we miss from the DVDs. That's so cool.
I love that stuff.
Yeah, you hear it.
I always feel a little bit sad that I feel like I've reached this point in my career where I can I would, if this was the year 2004, be doing DVD commentaries and stuff, which I'd always wanted to do because I was a kid at that time. And now I'm like, oh, now I don't get to do them. That sucks because we're not doing them anymore. I always wanted to do it, you know?
I think, the Gen Z may bring back the idea of DVDs, or maybe there's a way of doing that. Well, I know my son, what he does is he goes on, whenever he watches a movie, he'll go on YouTube and check out the kind of that behind the scenes stuff. We watched the most recent Avatar the other day, and he did that. So that's sort of the same thing. But yeah, when you got a DVD, man, you had it all right there, So I'm a big fan.
It was a lot, but it was also they were trying really hard to push people to buy movies, especially movies that they'd already bought. And so they were like, well, how do we get people to buy these movies? And they're like, well, let's just pack a whole bunch of extra junk in there. And they would have documentaries that just went so in depth. Like a lot of the behind the scenes things you see now are really pretty surface level.
Yeah.
It's sort of somebody just talking about what's happening or showing a computer screen of something happening. But the ones from the 2000s and stuff, you can find some in there that are just like, yeah, we're gonna watch this person stop motion animate a skeleton across a screen, and you're just gonna watch somebody do that, and it's great.
Yeah. Plus, I'm a big fan of outtakes also, so that's another benefit there. But now the next question: if you're to say you're gonna get to the end of your day and you go, God, that was a perfect day. What are the component parts or the ingredients for you for a perfect day, or what would they be?
I think a perfect day would be one, the temperature is about 60 degrees, maybe 55. Starting there. I would probably like there to be snow because I live in a snowless place and I miss it.
You are very much in an incubator. Yeah. That's one thing when I lived in LA. The only thing I remember from LA that was really different was June gloom. I remember that the whole.
It's a very strange thing going from a place that has a lot of seasons like Minnesota to here where there aren't any seasons. It really messes with your memories where you realize like, oh, I didn't realize how many of my memories were tied to seasons. And then I come out here, I'm like, I have no idea how much time has passed. I don't know when that happened or whatever. Anyway, probably do something with snow. Or even though I'm saying with snow, it's also 50 degrees. We'll see. But I would want to be about that temperature. And I think I would probably have just watched a movie, eat some Korean barbecue, and just like be hanging out with my friends and making a lot of jokes. Like that's the main thing I want to do every day is just like hanging out with friends and making jokes.
I agree.
I mean, like friends and family, and that's kind of it. I like it. It's a good time. Like if I could just do that for the rest of my life, and then whenever I wanted to go direct something, that'd be a perfect life.
Friends make it. It's who you're around. I think is what you remember.
All I want to do is just laugh with friends and stuff all day. That's the great. It's kind of lame to be like, you know what I really like? Laughing, but like it's great. That's all I want to do.
When I think about the things, when I look baback at time, like if I would I'm going to go back to my 20s or even early 30s. Let's say, when was I enjoying myself the most? Before I had my kids, because that adds a new paradigm. It's just when I'm with the friends, I'm laughing. Things are lighter, more levity, and when you're laughing, it could even be a rough time of your life, but you're sitting there laughing about it.
It's some of my favorite moments are like when I was in college at 2 a.m. going to McDonald's with my friends and eating in the parking lot and talking about girls. Like it was fantastic. I love that. It was great.
It all comes back to McDonald's, no matter what country.
Yeah. Back to McDonald's. Yeah.
Now, last couple questions. If you weren't doing this, if somebody said to you, okay, Owen, this animation thing, this writing creative thing that you're doing is just not available to you anymore. It's not available to you anymore. What would be the next vocation for you?
I've always wondered that. And I've thought, I remember, I know that there's this alternate life that I have where I am a pastry chef, not because I like making pastries, but because when I was in junior high, they had us take like one of those career test things where it's like, what are you going to
your aptitude, vocational aptitude test thing? Yeah,
exactly. And I was like, I really want to go into art. And they're like, well, take this test. So I took the whole test and they were like, you should be a pastry chef. And I was like, I don't know what that is, nor do I want to do that. But I can see a part of my life, a part of me being like, I guess that's what I have to do. And that's what I would have ended up doing. It also turns out, I remember that test that we took was sponsored or put on or something by the local community college. So the whole point was to just get kids to go to that community college for whatever majors they had.
So they're pushing
so it was all just a scam.
You were in an indoctrination zone and didn't even know it.
Yeah. The total scam.
But pastry, now hey, you know what? I'm more of a I like cook. Anything I can throw in a skillet, make things happen, you know. But my daughter and I had those quintessential bunch of bananas that went, you know, south. I'm like, we're going to do banana bread. We say we're going to do it. We did it. I'm like, well, damn, that came out okay. I was kind of proud of myself. The house smelled more welcoming, you know. So I need to get into a little bit of baking, I guess.
I recently did a bunch of, you know, fried tofu with like an orange sauce. And I was like, this is fantastic. Like, why am I even doing this?
That's great. You got to, you know, there's a place in New Orleans where I haven't found any place here, but it was a real deal Asian market, and they made real deal tofu. And it reminds me when I was little, my father had an office right down the way. I remember it's called Shin Shin Grocery. It was a little grocery, and it was just down the strip shopping center thing. And a guy actually showed me how they made tofu. And I remember I was like trying to be helpful. I was like 10. I was 10 or 11. Yeah. And so I came in there and it's a press, and I'm like, I'm going to help him out. I'm like, and I turned the press, I turned the wheel, and you have these stacked pallets of all this tofu, and it all started oozing out. And he's like, oh, you know, whatever. He was speaking in Cantonese or whatever. He's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad. He's like, no, not a problem. Then they took the tofu, and he had different kinds of tofu. Like one, it was like baked, but it was all firm, and it was really, I don't know, man. I like real deal tofu. You know?
When I was 4 or 5, something like that, my dad used to take me to this donut shop because I was living in Illinois at the time. My dad would take me to this donut shop, and they took a liking to me because I was the only kid who was being taken out and about by his dad, which at the time was a rather unusual thing. And so I was a little baby, and I was a little kid and stuff. We went to this donut shop all the time, and the donut shop owner had this big waxed mustache, and they liked me so much that they eventually, at one point, I had like one of those long johns that I sucked all the filling out of a long john, and I'd sucked it all out, and I was sort of like, oh man, I sucked all the filling out. I don't know what to do. And the owner was like, oh, come here. And then he took me by the shoulder and led me into the back of this donut shop where I got to see the entirety of this Willy Wonka-esque donut making machines that he had in the back of the donut shop. They went over this big press and just squeezed a bunch of extra filling into my donut like a little cup and then gave it back to me. I was like, this is incredible. Very memorable for a 4-year-old.
Oh, see, those are great memories though. You can kind of go back, and it was sort of like that, because that stuff was magic back then. You know, it was like, And I vividly remember being in second grade, and they took us on a tour of the kitchen of Burger King at one point in time. I'm thinking, how dangerous is that to take a bunch of second grade? I mean, I'm a Gen X kid.
Nuts.
I mean, they were just like, whatever, it'll be fine. Just don't touch that.
I can see a lot of kids getting boiled alive or something. Yeah.
Stealing French fries and, right out of the oil or something. But the last question I got for you, if you were to jump into that DeLorean and you could travel back to when you were 16 years old, and you got a few minutes with you, and you could offer a piece of advice to make that moment of your life somehow better, or to get you on a little bit different trajectory, what would that piece of advice to 16-year-old you be?
16-year-old version of me.
Oh yeah.
1, you're going to be fine. 2, cut the ego. There you go. You don't need to have this ego, man. You're fine.
Really?
It was one of those equal things where I was so sad when I was that age because I didn't know anybody who was like me. And so what it would do is I think it led to a lot of sort of defense mechanisms going up, where if I had something that I was good at or did have some knowledge of, I wanted to be the perfect person at it. I knew about it, I know about this thing, so I'm the best at it. And it's that's just wrong.
Yeah, that feeling like you cracked the code on something nobody understands.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's classic 16-year-old behavior that didn't go away for me until I was 21-ish. Later than that, honestly. But I'm still I'm sure have it. But that's something that just So I always want to just be like, it's okay. You will be happier. I promise you will be happier.
Well, that's good.
than,
No,
than
I
you
know
are
that
right
feeling.
now.
It's like that feeling, all the academic types or all the sporting types where there's their skill set is evident, because they're out on the playing field or they're getting their grades. But this thing that is a little bit more subjective, and it's you almost just say,
at the time it felt very outcasty. It was a lot of pushing away, and I didn't have, I wasn't the same religion as my peers at the time, so that was a whole big thing as well. And so there were always these sort of ways that I got sort of pushed out.
Well, up there, everybody is Lutheran, right? Is that that's prevailing?
Yes, a lot of Lutherans and Catholics, and that's kind of it. But my family was we were atheist, really. And so you ended up with people who treated me poorly because of that. And I ended up hanging out with the other kids that were in that sort of zone. I did have, I had good friends and stuff, but I definitely felt constantly like sort of pushed away a lot as a kid by people around me. Who were often by adults. Like it was ridiculous. It was terrible.
Yeah, oh no, I remember vividly. I remember being a Jewish kid growing up in the buckle of the Bible Belt. I remember being in second grade and being told I'm going to hell because I'm Jewish. It was the first time I heard that.
Same.
I was like, what a I always say that some people will crack a little bit on LDS, a Mormon. I'm like, I've never met a Mormon person I didn't like. I remember they did the quintessential thing, knocked on the door. They want to talk to me. It's like, hey man, I'm Jewish, but I appreciate it. We just had this nice little conversation. But I've had other people knock on the door and they're, they say, can we talk to you about whatever? And this is back home in Dallas. I was a little kid. I'm a little kid answering the door. I'm a Gen X kid because, and they're like, you don't want to go to hell, do you? I'm like, I'm like 11. Why are we having this conversation kind of a thing,
Yes.
And so,
that happened a lot when I was a kid. Like I remember one of the things that I was actually, again, very lucky with my parents and my family is that they, I remember my house ended up being sort of one of those refuge houses for like kids who were being treated poorly by their parents in various ways where like I had friends who were I had a friend who was kidnapped in the middle of the night and taken to a camp like to re-educate him into the faith, like one of those kinds of things. And he was like 17 when that happened. And it's like, dude, I was like, it was. And then I remember they had, when he finally came back, like kids had to sign things saying they'd never speak to him again, like all kinds of crazy shit like that. So I would basically be like, hey, these people around you have their own insane lives that are not, you don't worry about them. You're never going to have to deal with them later. Once you find your group, you will find your group and you're not going to have to deal with these people anymore. You have to deal with them.
I always thought boiled down
in
like
greater
that.
ways.
It's like, why does somebody want to push
personally?
I always thought, like, why does somebody want to push so hard on you? It's like, hey, if you do the thing that you find that makes you feel good and happy and you're a better person in the world, I don't care what that is. But
I remember,
just live and
I remember
let
sometimes live. I remember sometimes I had to be like the ideal atheist, which is a weird thing. But I had family friends who I'd like go over their house and they didn't believe that I was an atheist because I was a good kid. And so they were like, they would tell my friends like, oh no, he's Christian. My friends would be like, no, he's not. He's atheist. And like, no, he's not. And they just like wouldn't believe it. So I always had to like be very like putting on a good face for, I don't know, lack of religion. It was a very strange thing. But anyway, to talk to a 16-year-old version of me and be like, it's going to be okay. That's mostly, it's going to be fine. You'll be fine.
Well, man, no, I appreciate you taking some time out with me today. This is fun. I really enjoyed it. And I'm enjoying digging into the, because I'm a VO guy. I love digging into the voice acting, and listening to the folks. But
this is also just a great conversation. I like that we're just talking. It's great.
This is my 3-hour drive into animation, and we're in a cornfield right now, which just does not sound. It sounds very scary, actually, when you say. But I appreciate that. It's kind of like doing a little walkabout. Now I enjoyed learning.
Yeah. One time I stayed in a cornfield. Just to add another onto that. One time I stayed in a cornfield and I was sleeping in the back seat, and some cops pulled up and were like knocking on my window, and they're like, "Hey, are you alive?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, we got a report of a dead body in the back of a car." I was like, "No, I'm alive. I'm just playing my Game Boy." Like, all right.
You know, I got to
Did you
tell you
go
though, I
somewhere
mean, it's
else?
not
I was
often
like, yeah,
people can
right.
say at one point in time in my life, you know, somebody thought I was a dead guy in a car. You know, that was
Yeah. Yeah.
But my friend, well, you take care, and man, I appreciate you spending some time with me. It's fun. I'm like I said, looking forward to digging in. I haven't had a chance to watch Infinity Train. I'm going to go dig into that as well. You know, so
Go for it.
I'm going to have my Owen Dennis-a-thon. So, but
How old are your kids?
23, 21, and 20. So they're all kind of right in there. I think my son is the one I think would probably enjoy it the most. You know,
Yeah, they're like. I feel like Infinity Train is meant for like teens, pretty much. But I've found a lot of people in their early 20s really like it a lot.
My friend, well, you have yourself a really killer rest of your week, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to catch up down the line, I hope.
Thank you very much. This has been great.
Okay, there you go. Owen Dennis. Very cool to sit down and talk the world of animation. It's always fun. Learned a thing or two. Enjoyed it. Of course, Owen's show, the latest animated series, Among Us, is available right now on Paramount Plus. And do me a small favor, just head over to your podcast app. Make sure to follow Story and Craft, leave a like, leave a comment. Hey, it's always appreciated because that way it helps people to find the show. And I appreciate you doing that. Also, everything about the show you would like to learn, like past guests, past episodes, it is all on the site. Just go to storyandcraftpod.com and it's all right there for you. So yeah, I'm going to head on out and go grab myself a little lunch. Have a great rest of your day. As I always say, thank you very much for making what I got going on here part of whatever you've got going on. So come on back by. Got another episode coming up, and I look forward to talking to you then, right here on Story and Craft.
That's it for this episode of Story and Craft. Join Mark next week for more conversation, right here on Story and Craft. Story and Craft is a presentation of Mark Preston Productions, LLC. Executive producer is Mark Preston. Associate producer is Zachary Holden. Please rate and review Story and Craft on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. You can subscribe to show updates and stay in the know. Just head to storyandcraftpod.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Emma Dillon. See you next time, and remember, keep telling your story.
Come on.